No, I'm not envious of your money, but I'm damned pissed that you're polluting my nature, because it is mine. It's not yours to destroy. This is my nature, together with 5 million other Norwegians. We own this nature, and you're not allowed to pollute it like you do. We want the pollution to stop. We can't look in their grandchildren's face when they in 40, 50 time year from now tell us, what the fuck were you doing? You messed up my nature. What should I live upon now? I have nothing. Because you fucked it up, because you let some greedy billionaires get even more rich.
As a Norwegian, to sort of look and see that Norwegian companies are being so cynical and just destroying other countries' environment and ecosystems to make more profit. It's embarrassing.
Así entre 2003 y 2013, después desapareció 3/4 de la abundancia de estas especies.
They are causing a number of problems, and by far the biggest sinner, I think, and as all the research show as well. Now I just read that they are trying to change the researchers because they are coming up with the wrong answer. So that's their way of solving the problem, just replace the scientists. I'm happy that people are starting to wake up and see all the problems they are causing, not just in Norway. You know, it's South Africa, in Chile, Scotland, Iceland. You know, it's everywhere, and they are going to escalate it, so it's going to be even worse. We have to stop this.
Pero no cree que ya el tema de izquierda-derecha ya es del pasado, ahora tenemos que unirnos para defender nuestra naturaleza y nuestro patrimonio.
Pero por supuesto, pues esa debería ser la voluntad de todos los seres humanos que habitamos el planeta.
Yo no canto por cantar, ni por tener buena voz. Canto porque la guitarra tiene sentido y razón.
Nature is wonderful. The eternal snow that crowns the mountains melts in the summertime, forming rivers and lakes that nourish an immense diversity of flora and fauna. That pure crystal water not only sustains life, it also delights our senses. It's a perfect and necessary cycle, a secret pact since the dawn of time, one where water returns to its source, the ocean. An incredible variety of creatures live in the depths of the ocean. Fish, crustaceans, corals, algae, an almost infinite biodiversity. The sea provides for all of them: birds, fish, shellfish. Every creature benefits from its abundant fruits, just as we humans can enjoy its generous produce every day in the markets. And savor and enjoy delicacies as participants in this great celebration. But the celebration is in danger.
Vamos a ir a otro tema. Serena Pesca alertó que varias salmoneras en el sur del país han activado planes de contingencia por la muerte masiva de peces en las regiones de Aysén y de los lagos.
At least 5,500 tons of salmon was dumped at waste facilities last month, killed by a strain of bacterial disease they hadn't been vaccinated against. The mass mortality event has hit Huon Aquaculture and Tassals farms in the D'Entrecasteaux Channel.
Al menos 800.000 salmones escaparon de un centro de cultivo en la región de los lagos, provocando la preocupación de las autoridades, quienes advierten que las especies no son aptas para el consumo humano por estar recibiendo un tratamiento con antibióticos. Sin embargo, pescadores en Puerto Montt ofrecían el kilo hasta en 800 pesos.
Más de 5.500 toneladas de salmones muertos debieron ser retiradas en las últimas horas de la sureña región de los lagos en Chile. Las autoridades confirmaron el lunes que la catástrofe ambiental se debe al crecimiento de una marea de algas nocivas, producidos según expertos por el cambio climático y la salmonicultura irresponsable.
So what's happening? The sea is being suffocated by pollution. The red tides are no longer occasional, they're constant. Chilean Patagonia and other ecosystems are overflowing with plastics, chemicals and antibiotics produced by the salmon farming industry, which is growing unchecked while the authorities do nothing. Biodiversity is declining. Fjords that once teemed with life are now underwater cemeteries. Ecological disasters are becoming more frequent. Massive fish deaths. But what's causing these changes? The communities impacted by the salmon industry are now starting to protest against an industry that's committing crimes against nature. But even though sustainable alternatives exist, the industry refuses to change. Greed is destroying our heritage and endangering our future. This isn't normal, nor is it acceptable. Time is running out and it's time to take action. My name's Roberto Yekye Quintas. I'm a citizen of two worlds, Chile and Sweden. My interest in sustainable development began in the early 90s, when I graduated as an industrial civil engineer from the Federico Santa Maria Technical University in Chile. Years later, I advanced my knowledge in this field by studying an MSc in Environmental Engineering and Sustainable Infrastructure at the Royal Institute of Technology in Sweden. When I learned that the salmon industry was expanding into the southernmost areas of Chilean Patagonia, polluting protected areas and national parks, breaking the law by overproducing, it caused the alarm inside me to go off. Chilean Patagonia, one of the most beautiful and pristine regions on the planet, with unique ecosystems and breathtaking landscapes, is in mortal danger. The uncontrolled expansion of the salmon industry has already caused countless environmental disasters, driven by a level of greed that appears limitless. And although technologies exist that would enable sustainable production, the government-backed companies refuse to invest in them. Instead, they choose to continue polluting without regard for the environment or the communities that depend on the sea. We can't allow this, not in Chile, not in Norway, nor anywhere in the world. What's at stake is not just a landscape, a region, or a natural resource, it's our legacy, the essence of who we are and the future of the generations to come. I firmly believe that every one of us has the power and the responsibility to make a difference, to act as guardians of this beautiful planet we call home. This is why I decided to investigate the issues of the salmon farming industry thoroughly. With this in mind, I took my motorhome and embarked on a journey from Stockholm to Norway, the world's largest salmon producer. My aim was clear: to establish whether Norway used sustainable practices and to understand, from the ground up, the true impacts of this industry. I interviewed scientists, NGOs, and fishermen. I wanted answers to urgent questions. Is Norway facing the same environmental challenges as Chile? What are the actual impacts of the salmon industry? Are there any good practices? But I didn't stop there. I travelled to my native country, Chile, the second largest salmon producer in the world, to find out how they mitigate the impacts of this industry. I didn't just want to analyse figures or studies that, while valuable, are often superficial. I wanted to see with my own eyes the reality that nature and the people living in affected areas are experiencing. I wanted to hear their stories, their struggles, their fears and their hopes. I wanted to witness the reality. This is not just a tale of exploration, but an invitation to question, to investigate, and to defend those who have no voice. I also had the privilege of travelling to Poros, a beautiful island in Greece, where I participated in a conference that brought together people from all over the world that are passionately committed to fighting against the development of open net fish farming. During the event, I had the opportunity to speak with NGO representatives and leading scientists, exchanging ideas and strategies to tackle this global issue. The salmon industry, which emerged in the early 70s as a small-scale family activity in the countries where it originated, initially grew without causing any major impacts. However, in the 80s, it expanded exponentially, reaching the current total production of nearly 3 million tons, primarily concentrated in Chile and Norway, which together represent about 80% of global production. Salmon has become a widely consumed product worldwide, currently sold in markets across the globe. The EU countries, the US, the UK, Japan, and now China are among the top salmon-consuming nations. This rapid expansion has caused impacts that are hard to fully grasp, but whose consequences are evident both in the ecosystems and the communities where the industry operates. Now I'll describe these impacts, which can be grouped into 4 categories of pollution: organic, chemical, biological, and social. Finally, I'll propose a possible solution to this problem. I'm inviting you on a journey from darkness to light, ex umbra in solem, in the words of my alma mater's motto, in defense of the most precious thing that we have, our nature, the source of life itself. My first stop was Bergen, a picturesque coastal city west of Oslo, the location of the headquarters of the world's largest salmon producer, Mowi, formerly known as Marine Harvest. I was surprised by the simplicity of their facilities, hidden behind a row of abandoned buildings. Their offices seemed to prefer a low profile. Once there, I parked my motorhome and had the opportunity to meet Rune Jensen, the leader of an NGO that's fighting passionately for the survival of wild salmon, a species whose existence is increasingly threatened by the salmon farming industry.
So we are here outside the Mowi headquarters, no?
Yeah, this is the Mowi headquarters. It doesn't look like much. It is running all the businesses in Chile, in British Columbia, Scotland, Iceland, Norway. Nowadays, we are looking into in a much broader spectrum of the negative side effects of raising farm salmon in open net pens. And the thing that we are very concerned about, and that every person that loves their coast should be concerned about, is the fact that their pollution is so big that it's very hard to understand how big it actually is. And when we talk about pollution, we have both organic pollution, biological pollution, and chemical pollution. And the numbers are so high and so big that if I told you that the fish farm industry in 2016 in Norway alone used 43,000 tons of hydrogen peroxide, you wouldn't kind of be able to grasp that high number. So instead, we are looking to kind of break down the numbers and to tell how much they're polluting per employee. So because they are creating jobs in the rural districts along the coasts of the world, but these jobs actually come with a huge cost for the local coastal ecology. And the cost is the pollution. And the pollution is costing the wild fishermen, the lobster fishermen, and even the ecology and even small sea creatures like zooplankton, and everything is being disturbed. And at a level and a rate that is unheard of. People tend to not understand the magnitude of the pollution.
Organic pollution. One of the main issues with aquaculture is that the pollution it causes is invisible. At first glance, everything seems clean and proper. In some cases, the floating cages even give the impression of being artistic installations. However, the reality beneath the surface is very different.
When you talk about organic pollution, how big are the numbers? So the thing is, you can compare one average size fish farm and how much organic waste they let out. It's the same as putting a barn, a floating barn with 6,800 cows that is shitting directly into the ocean. So whenever you see a fish farm, an average size fish farm, imagine a barn with 6,800 cows shitting everything directly into the ocean. That's the cool and cold, hard facts and reality.
To measure the impacts of the salmon industry on the seabed, Norway's environmental organization Green Warriors conducted a research trip in 2016 aboard a vessel equipped with cutting-edge technology that could film at great depths.
We spent 2 months investigating under 40 fish farms, and the national TV didn't even show it. And they were invited to come on board, they were invited to take place, they were invited to everything, and we communicated, we sent them the videos, and nothing, not a word. Because we invested a lot in investigating this industry. So we've been filming underneath a lot of fish farms. Here is the official numbers. The blue is very good condition on the seafloor. You would sort of look for seashells and starfishes and things, right? And green is good, and yellow is bad, and red is very bad. You can see here there is a tiny little dot with red, tiny little yellow one, and a big blue one, which is very good. That's the shellfish and stuff, right? And let's see in the video when we compare it to what we find when we are down there. So this is under the farm. This is the number of the farm. This is the depth, 102 meters. This is very good condition. So this is the fish shit. And you see in some of these bubbles of gas coming up from the mud. And those bubbles are methane and hydrogen sulfide, which are made when there is very bad conditions on the seafloor. Things are decomposing without oxygen. And now we are 57 meters from the plant. This is in 108 meters. This is a new location. So that it hasn't been here for a long time.
So you cannot trust any of this information?
Not at all.
I was genuinely shocked. I'd always thought that developed countries like Norway protected their natural environments. Who would have imagined that such a prosperous nation, with its majestic fjords and glaciers, rich in oil and with no economic urgency, would allow the destruction of its own natural heritage? In disbelief, I decided to visit Mowi's offices personally to listen to their side of the story. They denied me a formal interview, but agreed to an informal conversation. While I listened to what they had to say, I recorded the conversation, fully aware of the importance of documenting every detail.
We checked the status of the bottom before, during, and after every production cycle, right? And then it's graded. So 96% of sites in Norway would be good or very good, according to the environmental authorities in Norway.
But I hear also that some environmental organizations, they have been digging in the places where they authorities say it is good, and it's not good at all.
Yeah. I'm sure there can be sites that, but it's demand by law.
It's possible that the measurements from Norway's maritime authorities are not entirely accurate. But we also need to ask ourselves another question. Is it really likely that 96% of the marine farms are in good condition after what Green Warriors found? Of the 40 sites they investigated, more than half were found to be in alarming condition. So alarming that they decided to report them formally to the authorities. Yet so far there have been no discernible consequences, and that leaves many unanswered questions. How are the facilities being evaluated? What criteria are being used? And what actually happens to complaints once they're received by the state?
Norwegian maritime authorities said, this is not proof. This can be from wherever. And there will always have some negative effects in producing food. Have you been in a farm of cows? They are also shitting.
All these red dots right here, that's the salmon farms in this area. And remember, every dot represents at least 6,800 cows. But if you compare to if you have raising cows on land, in order for you to raise cows on land, you have to have fields to spread their dirt on it evenly. And of course, the dirt is being absorbed by the soil and it gives for new grass and everything. But if you had 6,800 cows, you need 30 square kilometers of fields to spread it on. And how many fish farms do you see here? Each of them need 30 square kilometers of fields to spread their shit. I mean, the fjords ain't big enough to spread their shit in a way that is not harmful.
To better understand what we're talking about, we should explain what algal blooms and red tides are. In the ocean, sunlight heats the water, and when a large number of fish collect in the same place, their waste and food scraps release nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphorus. These nutrients accelerate the growth of microalgae, which is known as algal bloom. As the algae grow, they consume oxygen and cloud the water, preventing light from reaching the seabed. This affects the ability of aquatic plants to photosynthesize and further reduces available oxygen. If the process is unchecked, something called eutrophication occurs. The lack of oxygen creates an anoxic environment, meaning one without oxygen. And marine life dies. Some algae even release toxins, which causes red tides, a phenomenon that can be harmful to fish, shellfish, and even humans if they consume contaminated products.
There's been studies that have shown that there's a correlation between the expansion of aquaculture and the recording of harmful algal blooms or red tides in different parts of the world. In fact, in almost every ocean in the world. These particularly fish farms that are fed a lot of fish meal produce a lot of nutrients and produce a lot of organic matter that's then used by the organisms that form red tide. So you produce a lot of nutrients and this organic matter, and these organisms grow very quickly, and ironically can end up leading to killing the fish that are helping to generate these red tides.
Cuando uno habla de sustentabilidad tiene que necesariamente hablar de límites, y los límites para la producción de salmones en Chile nunca han estado claros. Básicamente la Ley General de Pesca y Acuicultura establece un concepto técnico que se denomina capacidad de carga. Eso quiere decir la capacidad ecológica, ¿cierto? Biológica, oceanográfica, de un lugar, ya sea un canal, una bahía, un fiordo, de sustentar una cantidad de biomasa de salmón. Eso es la capacidad de carga. ¿Cuánto aguanta el medio ambiente sin deteriorarse? Esa capacidad de carga no está estudiada, no está definida, y la industria del salmón se expandió y se sigue expandiendo en lugares donde el medio ambiente no tiene la capacidad de sustentar salmón.
En abril del 2021 hubo un evento de florecimiento algales nocivos. Eso generó la mortalidad masiva, si bien recuerdo, de cerca de 5.000 toneladas de salmones de distintos centros de cultivo en el fiordo Comau. Y al revisar los datos pudimos constatar que muchos de esos centros de cultivo habían aumentado su producción a través de un cambio en su permiso ambiental. Entonces eso es una trampa, porque el año 2010, si bien se limitó el otorgamiento de nuevas concesiones, lo que sí se siguió haciendo en adelante fue aumentar la producción de manera muy considerable, sin necesariamente evaluar idóneamente el impacto ambiental que eso iba a generar. ¿Qué quiere decir? Que una concesión que tenía, por ejemplo, autorizado producir hasta 500 toneladas, con esa autorización de aumento de biomasa, pudo pasar a producir 2.000, 3.000 o 4.000 toneladas. Y eso en muchísimas concesiones, no solo en el fiordo Comau, sino a nivel nacional, en las 3 regiones australes donde opera la salmonicultura. Y ese fue el principal factor de crecimiento que tuvo la industria a lo largo de todo el periodo 2010-2024.
Era una floración pero terrible. Yo me acuerdo que en esta parte aquí, en la esquina de mi casa, de aquí al final, era una capa así. Fue algo que nunca había visto en el mar, y un olor fétido. Fétido, era como si arrojaran un vertedero de caca o de excremento humano en el mar. Yo que vivo en la otra casa que está usted, que está muy a la orilla del mar, eso no se podía abrir ventanas ni nada. Y todo el mar andaba con unas franjas café, como molidillo así, como caca botada en el mar. Pero eso eran peces muertos. Y hubo una mortandad de jureles que usted hubiese visto, el mar era como una olla como en sopa con cosas flotantes. Era asqueroso todo eso, y era terrible de ver tanto pescado. Así que eso fue lo que pasó por primera vez cuando fue la floración, que hace mucho tiempo atrás. Yo lo único sí que le puedo decir que yo saqué el muestreo de agua al olfato de un ser humano, era un olor a sangre de pescado podrido. Y nosotros teníamos un cultivo de choros, el cual teníamos que vender esos choros, y nos sentimos muy preocupados porque podía ser marea roja. Nadie sabía de qué se trataba eso y qué era, qué podía ser. A mí me dio miedo porque el boli tenía que vender esas semillas de choro y era un peligro porque si no la iban a rechazar todas. Y bueno, y al final igual tuvimos que esperar hasta julio, hasta que lloviera, hubiera mucha lluvia y se limpiara ya un poco el mar y entrara más oxígeno. Era falta de oxígeno también, dijeron, y que ya estaba explotando el mar, en realidad, el fiordo. Esa fue la primera vez, pero no es ahora nomás, es mucho tiempo atrás. Y si esto no se fiscalizó, no se hizo nada, no lo sé. No sé por qué no fue, quién hizo oído sordo a todo esto.
The Comau Fjord is a natural treasure in southern Chile. It's situated between Homopirén and Caleta Porcelana, where the southern highway is interrupted and only the sea allows passage. Its deep waters lead to Pumalin Park, a legacy of conservationist Douglas Tompkins, which protects ancient Alice trees and unique ecosystems. Yet despite the fjord's great value, its environment is under threat. In remote areas like this, where the state has little presence, the salmon industry has grown unchecked, and many communities see it as an income source without realizing the long-term environmental and social damage it causes. What's most concerning is that technologies that would increase the sustainability of production processes exist, yet they're not applied. There's a lack of science-based regulation, and warnings from experts about the consequences are ignored. One of these voices is Vreni Hausermann, a doctor of marine biology, German by origin but Chilean by choice. She's been living in southern Chile for years, dedicating her life to the study and defense of Comau Fjord. With tireless commitment, she's documented the impacts of the salmon industry on underwater ecosystems, collecting valuable evidence of what the seabed was like before industrial intervention. Though her work hasn't received the attention or support it deserves, her scientific legacy is a beacon of hope. Thanks to her records and her irrefutable evidence, it's now possible to confirm the degradation caused by negligence and lack of regulation.
The first time I came to Comau Fjord was in 2002. I just dived there the first time and was totally impressed by the biodiversity. It was unbelievably colorful and diverse. And I've been studying the fjord for 20 years, but I had to see how things changed over the years. When I came to Comau Fjord, there were only 3 really small farms. But in 2010, there were already more than 10, 15 really huge farms. And at its maximum, there were 23 huge farms. The amount of nutrients, of antibiotics, of chemicals that were put into the water were rising exponentially. Between 2003 and 2013, we saw a strong decline in biodiversity. There were species that we didn't see anymore, like the rock shrimps. There were other species, like the gorgonians, that reduced its abundance by 75% in only 10 years. Other species were really hard to find at all. The corals died off. The Comau Fjord was really well known for its coral banks. The whole fjord, when the walls were vertical or overhanging, was full of coral banks. And in 2012, the coral banks along the inner fjord, along more than 20 kilometers of the fjord, died, and they have not recovered since then. And in the last couple of years, the salmon farms were even leaving Comau Fjord again because there was no oxygen left. And even the fish died because there was not enough oxygen for them. So for a certain time, they used tubes where they bubbled oxygen into the cages. But even this didn't work forever. And so then the farms left the fjord. And a couple of years ago, there was not a single salmon farm in the fjord. And now they are just coming back because there seems to be some oxygen again. But the biodiversity in the fjord has changed dramatically over time.
Algo que se está haciendo desde hace un par de años, que desde Fundación Terra nos parece que es muy grave, es la inyección de oxígeno de manera artificial sobre el fondo marino. ¿Qué es lo que genera eso? De que al momento en que las empresas realizan el muestreo de la información ambiental, donde se miden distintas variables, entre esas los niveles de oxígeno, se puede constatar niveles seguramente positivos de oxígeno, de manera tal que la autoridad le autoriza a seguir produciendo para un ciclo siguiente, pero sin necesariamente evaluar cómo esa inyección de oxígeno primero afecta al ecosistema y segundo, si es sostenible en el tiempo.
After witnessing the impacts of the salmon industry in Norway, I suspected that the situation in Chile might be even worse, but I never imagined it would plumb such depths. How is it possible to destroy an entire fjord while ignoring the people who tried to warn us? Why would anyone attempt to keep a dying ecosystem alive by injecting it with oxygen without fully understanding the consequences? An ecosystem of incomparable beauty, home to a unique biodiversity, is being devastated. And what's most outrageous, instead of protecting the people and safeguarding its invaluable natural heritage, the Chilean state seems to have surrendered to purely economic interests. What's the point of laws and regulations if they're neither enforced nor respected? To sound out the position of Semapesca, the government agency responsible for ensuring compliance, I travelled to Valparaiso, determined to get answers, but the interview I'd arranged never materialised. It was only after I'd returned to Sweden and persisted that I finally managed to speak with the deputy director of Semapesca on Zoom.
Estuve hablando con una científica que ha trabajado mucho en el fiordo de Comau y me cuenta que se perdió un 75% de la biodiversidad, está en condiciones anaeróbicas, que ya no hay salmonera ahí, y no se fueron porque las sacaron de ahí, sino que se fueron porque ya no pueden operar, porque no hay oxígeno. ¿Qué pasó con la fiscalización ahí?
No tendría una... Claro, no tendría yo una forma de poder explicar exactamente lo que ocurrió en ese caso. Ahora, en términos generales, podría señalar que la normativa para el control ambiental de los efectos de la acuicultura es, como te digo, en base a esta determinación del nivel de oxigenación del sedimento, y se realiza regularmente, y todos los centros que se autorizan a operar tienen que cumplir con el parámetro. Eso es lo que la norma contempla, y nosotros nos encargamos de que efectivamente ocurra así.
Pero, por ejemplo, estuve en Coyhaique y en Puerto Cisne, y me entrevisté con Senapesca de allá, y haciendo averiguaciones, digo que no tienen siquiera lanchas propias para ir a fiscalizar, y muy poco personal, son muchísimas las concesiones. ¿Cómo pueden hacer un buen trabajo si no tienen ni siquiera lanchas?
Bueno, sí, efectivamente no tenemos embarcación propia. En el caso de las fiscalizaciones asociadas a los procesos de análisis de la condición de los sedimentos, el tema está, controlado, o lo tenemos más fácil, porque son las empresas que licitaron estos terceros acreditados, estos laboratorios ambientales que van a tomar las muestras, nos llevan en ese caso.
La salmonicultura tiene una concesión de 200, 400 metros cuadrados. Al año siguiente usted lo ve 1000 metros más a medio, 2000 metros más a medio. Y los controles que hace Senapesca obviamente que está basado en lo que la empresa le entregue para transportarlo. O sea, lo lleva y que lo fiscalicen, o sea, como niño bueno. Y yo creo que está fuera de control, digamos, la situación de la producción del salmón en nuestra región. Hay lugares que Senapesca, por casualidad, se permiten 80 toneladas, pero hay 250, o sea, hay una carga tremenda en los canales de pescado y falta de oxigenación. Lo preocupante es que nosotros quedamos, pero las empresas se van. El futuro para nuestras futuras generaciones es incierta.
En mayo del año 2024, nosotros publicamos una investigación que constató la existencia de 95 casos de sobreproducción de salmones solo dentro de áreas protegidas. Esto quiere decir de que si la autoridad autoriza en sus permisos ambientales producir 2.000 toneladas, nosotros registramos que había durante 95 ciclos productivos, se había excedido ese límite máximo de producción por un total de 67.500 toneladas de exceso. Eso equivale a cientos de millones de dólares en ventas, y ninguno de esos casos había sido sancionado hasta ese entonces. La gran mayoría de ellos, 78 casos, ya se encontraban prescritos. Y eso es particularmente grave porque la autoridad encargada de fiscalizar es el Servicio Nacional de Pesca y Acuicultura, y la encargada de sancionar es la Superintendencia del Medio Ambiente. Actúan de la mano. Y en estos casos, en la gran mayoría de ellos, Senapesca, primer organismo, no había denunciado, mientras que en ninguno de los casos, aun cuando algunos habían denunciado, la superintendencia no los había sancionado. Por lo tanto, eso da cuenta de que la salmonicultura, una industria muy grande, la segunda industria exportadora en Chile, después de la minería del cobre, opera en un margen legal bastante dudoso. O sea, hay una producción importante orientada a la exportación que se produce de manera ilegal, y las autoridades no son capaces de fiscalizar, o aún teniendo los datos a la mano, porque estos son datos que nosotros solicitamos por solicitudes de información vía ley de transparencia, podrían haberlos revisado en línea y haber realizado las denuncias. La pregunta es por qué eso no se hizo durante tantos años.
Estuve conversando con con la organización Terra y me contaban que en las áreas protegidas tienen mucha sobreproducción y al parecer no hay mucha fiscalización de eso.
Disculpa, Roberto, yo por eso te pedía la pauta de preguntas previa, porque la subdirectora debe estar preparada y tener los antecedentes a la vista de las cosas que tú vas a preguntar. Entonces, si quieres abordar una entrevista de cosas más puntuales, me puedes enviar las preguntas que tengas y para poder nosotros poder analizar bien los antecedentes y poder tener esta...
Pero yo me imagino que usted tiene esos antecedentes porque es el trabajo que ustedes hacen, ¿no?
Claro, pero si tú me hablas de denuncias de Terram de sobreproducción, tendría yo que ver qué estamos hablando. Efectivamente, nosotros controlamos la producción y hacemos las denuncias correspondientes cuando detectamos que ha habido sobreproducción en los ciclos y esas denuncias se entregan a la SMA, que es el organismo que en este caso es el encargado de determinar las sanciones que correspondan. Como te digo, está, hay ahí, a ver, ¿cómo te lo explico en términos globales? Nosotros estamos conscientes de que hay una mirada muy atenta a el desarrollo de la acuicultura y sus impactos ambientales. Y sabemos que hay ONGs que están permanentemente mirando para encontrar, para dar digamos, no digo que para encontrar problemas, sino que para estar seguros de que todo se está haciendo correctamente. Y Terram ha hecho varios análisis. Ahí el problema que tenemos es que la información que ellos utilizan para sus análisis nosotros no siempre la entendemos correctamente. O sea, ellos nos piden a nosotros información dura, de datos, y luego hacen unos análisis respecto a los cuales nosotros no tenemos conocimiento de cómo los realizan. Entonces hay ciertas discrepancias ahí.
Es bastante curioso que Cernapesca, el organismo encargado de fiscalizar y denunciar los incumplimientos como la sobreproducción, no entienda los procedimientos que desarrollamos nosotros, porque lo que hicimos fue simplemente solicitar la información que ellos manejan, información que está en una plataforma en línea, y que al cruzarla con el límite máximo de producción que tiene cada uno de los centros de cultivo al interior de áreas protegidas, pudimos constatar que entre el año 2013 y 2023 habían ocurrido 95 casos de sobreproducción por un total de más de 67.500 toneladas de exceso, equivalente a cientos de millones de dólares en ganancias, y a través de un procedimiento que es bastante simple, que es básicamente sumar la cosecha total del centro de cultivo a la mortalidad total. Eso da una cantidad de kilos o toneladas que se restan al límite máximo que tienen autorizado. Es una operación bastante sencilla.
El año 2003, aprox, hubo una contaminación en la isla de Aldachildo. Ahí se hundió un centro completo. Tienen que haber sido unas 24 jaulas, ya casi listo para ir a cosecha, por contaminación de algas, o sea, mejor dicho, falta de oxígeno. Bueno, ver toda esa mortalidad fue terrible porque que se pierdan así esos peces, pero yo creo que todo pasa por un tema de no ser cuidadoso con la siembra, como siempre se ha dicho. Hay que ser cuidadoso donde siembra, no poner tanto, ser precavido, porque al final todo esto nos trae a futuro mucha contaminación, como se ve hoy día, que las aguas están contaminadas, pero a no dar más. Y eso es producto del mal manejo. Y uno mismo se involucra porque cuando estáis trabajando tampoco toma mucha conciencia. Solamente se dedica al trabajo y no a ser cuidadoso y decir, o patalear, como se dice ahí en ese momento, y decir, esto está mal. Y lamentablemente hoy día se viven las consecuencias aquí en el sur. Y se siguen porque por abajo hay mucha contaminación donde se fueron a instalar la salmonera. Bueno, y te cuento que yo trabajé en Punta Buenao, Buraco de Vélez, esos lugares como Planchá, Concha Blanca, quedó todo contaminado. Y es el tema que hoy día hace que Chiloé esté como está, contaminado.
I tried again to elicit a more concrete response from Cerna Pesca, but they didn't reply. I also tried to interview Aquaculture, Chile's largest salmon-producing company, but without results. I even attempted to contact the Superintendency of the Environment to understand why it is that companies which break the law aren't sanctioned, but they too refused to meet me. The situation is not only tragicomical, it's also infuriating. In Chile, salmon companies seem to operate with impunity, under extremely inadequate supervision, and what's worse, the state doesn't enforce the law against companies that commit offences and infringements. The most alarming aspect is that we're even destroying our national parks, protected areas that should be the final stronghold for preserving the little we have left. If we can't even protect these reserves, what sort of future can we guarantee? To put it simply, if it isn't stopped, there'll be nothing left. Sadly, the scale of the problem is enormous. The overproduction in protected areas alone, 67,500 tons of salmon, is equivalent to the pollution produced by 140,000 cows. To put it another way, this figure corresponds to the waste generated by 700,000 people dumping their untreated sewage directly into the ocean. Imagine an entire city of 700,000 inhabitants discharging its waste straight into protected marine areas. And this is only the overproduction. Why is the salmon industry allowed to get away with it when private citizens would never be allowed to do anything even remotely similar? It's shocking that such leniency is shown to an activity that so directly and massively destroys our natural heritage and ecosystems. It's not just alarming, it's an urgent call to action. The destruction of Patagonia, one of the richest and most beautiful places in the world, is not merely a local issue, it's a global disaster that affects us all. If we don't act now, the damage will be irreversible.